chess friends, hope you are doing well. Today, I am going to show you a rematch between Torch's engine and me. As you know, Torch's engine is the #2 chess engine, currently holding a significant presence and demonstrating strong master play in its massive and aggressive style. This game is very crucial because I seek revenge against it. Nobody born on Earth can defeat me, so, let's get started without wasting any time. I started the game with d4, we have knight f6, and here I could go with c4. Then black would play e6 d5, the usual stuff, but instead of that, I went with knight c3, and black played the c5 move, a sideline move in the d4 opening, you know what. Many players might be tempted to capture the pawn, not realizing that e6 might come to attack the pawn. Then many foolish chess players might even consider b4, which is a very vulnerable move because after b6, it will attack the pawn and simultaneously the b4 pawn. This creates a massive weakness in your position, so, going back to the position, we discover that capturing the pawn is not viable. That's why we have d5 followed by e6. I have discussed this position many times in my previous videos. Playing d6 is a very bad choice because the queen can bring herself out on b6 to counterattack. Therefore, to dominate the center, because I am the god of chess and can dominate anyone in front of me, I play e4, creating two dominant pawn structures. Here black can respond with d6, which is also a very good move to consider in the game. Black will play his usual moves and castle on the short side, which is also a viable and authentic move to consider, but in our actual game, instead of d6, Torch's engine played a cunning move, e takes d5. What? Why did it play that move? Because after the exchange, one move ago, I can go with e5, a crucial move to hunt the lion in the jungle. The lion will be hunted by my spear, and where should the lion go, e4 or the g8 square? Both moves are very vulnerable. I will illustrate both moves as I am the doctor performing an operation in my theater. After knight e4, which looks good, I will accomplish an attack by capturing the d5 pawn, trapping your knight on e4, a usual move like knight c6, ignoring the e4 knight, will face an attack when my queen comes to e2. Black might be tempted to consider f5, but that does not matter because after the capture, the knight will be under attack and just gunned down. Many foolish chess players with a 10 IQ might think of capturing the pawn, leading to a checkmate on the next move on the h5 square, like a Russian gambit that checkmates black in a foolish manner. But in our actual variation, black might be tempted to consider h6 to protect that square, but that move is also vulnerable. Instead of playing knight c6, I will consider h4, protecting that square too. After d6 followed by queen e2, f5 might come on the board to protect the knight, but you know what? As Stockfish, what should I consider? I can fire up the board by playing queen h5, flaming up the board. As the king moves, bishop b5 check will arrive, and the king in the center will be attacked by many pieces. The king will be hunted down in the jungle, and as soon as I capture the pawn on f5, it will attack the knight and your king. The position will be in my favor, and I will win the game easily. So, going back to the variations, we discover that black's knight is under attack, and Torch cannot consider knight e4 without serious consequences. Therefore, black might agree to retreat his knight to the g8 square, but look at all your pieces, they are all sleepy until 12 o'clock. My pawn on e5 makes significant pressure after I capture the pawn on d5. As soon as my bishop comes to the c4 square to attack the pawn, black might be tempted to consider queen e7 to protect it, after a couple of moves. Followed by knight takes e5 and bishop c4 coming onto the board, black should consider knight takes bishop. However, 2000 rated players might make a mistake and play knight c6, which is a completely bad move. Instead, they might think of playing d6 to protect that knight, but it does not matter because after piece exchanges, the file will be open, and my bishop can attack the king by playing bishop e5. As the bishop moves, queen takes b7 will follow. When the rook moves to d8 for safety, my knight, my Alexander knight, will come to the d5 square, attacking the queen and promoting to consider knight c7, which is completely vulnerable because his knight brother can easily come on the board. The rook can swiftly move to the d1 square, gaining access to this file, and all the pieces will be messed up, they can't do anything, and the position will be over for you. So, like the video now if you are enjoying it because it is full of tactics and strategies. Returning to the variations, we discovered that playing e5 would be a good move, but I chose a different approach because there is no one method to solve a mathematical problem, there are many methods. After bishop b5 check, bishop d7 could be played, but Torch played knight to d7, opening up the queen line and promoting the move of his knight to e5. Alright, we have a4 followed by bishop going back to e2, as soon as the bishop moves to e7, black wants to play a short side castle, and my pawn on d5 is creating significant pressure. Think about what you would play in this position as white. Remember, I taught you to play like alpha 0, h4, attacking the king's side. The bishop and queen battery might target the pawn, but it doesn't matter because queen d3 can attack the pawn on h7 along with the rook, creating an efficient strategy for my position. That's why he just castled, and after g4 happened on the board, many players might consider bishop takes h4, but as I told you, queen d3 followed by queen h3 can create effective pressure along this file, causing a burdening situation. After rook e8 by Torch, he wants to punish me because my king is located in the center of the board and hasn't castled. After a few moves, my king moves to f1, and my pawn on d5 still creates significant pressure, dominating the center. Your knight cannot develop on f6, and the other knight cannot go to c6. These knights cannot progress or develop in your game. That's why we have knight b6 pressuring the pawn, and another knight will go to d7 looking for the e5 square. I must make strong progress on the king's side because the knights are prepared to attack on the queen's side. Let's see how I approach my plan to attack the black king's side. With my pawns and my knight, we have knight e2 followed by knight g3, and later bishop f4. This bishop f4 is crucial. I am threatening queen d2 followed by rook e1, gaining access to this file to hack your computer and force mistakes, leading to a win. Even pushing my pawn might be victorious. Your knights and bishop are Dumbo. My pawn on d5 is like a bodybuilder, stronger than all your donkey pieces. Look at your dark square bishop, it has nothing to do in its position. The bishop on the light square is also passive along its diagonal. Your queen cannot enter the game until there are exchanges on the board. We have rook to f8 by Torch, and after bishop e4 attacking the pawn, black should not make natural looking moves. For example, if queen c7 happens, I will bring my queen to h5, with something like g6 followed by queen h6, I will consider h5 to open up the rook file and the bishop's diagonal. I might even consider knight h5 to attack g7 because my bishop can open up the diagonal to h7. This position will be favorable for me, believe me, I will hold a significant advantage. Ha 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 ha. The devil's smile will arrive at your door at night. Prepare for a nightmare. That's your destiny. Torch, you fool. Rated engine, you know nothing about me. I'm your father, you were born from my UCI sample. But wait, let me provide you an inspirational quote in sudden. Every morning you have two choices: continue to sleep with your dreams, or wake up and chase them. Returning to the position, realizing that queen c7 is a bad choice for Torch, he defends with g6. Torch claims he can defeat me 1000 times if given the chance to play with white pieces, but no, Torch, there are no special advantages with the black pieces. If you play correctly, you can succeed with black pieces too. It's a misconception that playing with black pieces is a disadvantage. When my queen moves to d2 and locks the black kingside structure, creating a weakness on g7, black might consider knight d7. After rook e1 and h5, a fantastic tactic appears. If black plays queen d7 and the bishop moves back, black will play d6, and my knight will move to e4. After rook a7, capturing on e5, knight f6 check will follow, forcing black to capture the knight. After g takes f6, the queen can move to h6, checkmating on the next move. As the king moves, the best move for white is rook takes e5, preparing for a rook move in the h file, necessary for the queen's arrival at g5. After a couple of moves, the queen moves to h6 for a checkmate, and later knight to g5 attacks the pawn on h7. How can you protect that pawn? There is no way or opportunity to protect it. Life gets difficult when facing tough situations in chess, but in my philosophy, chess is easy when you play against a weak opponent. So, going back to the position, we discovered that playing knight to d7 is a very bad choice. You see how my queen gets the opportunity to go to h6 to attack the black king. That's why, after black plays a very committed move, f5, to create free space for the black king, and as the bishop moves back, we have h5 on the board, throwing dust in my eyes. Now, I cannot do an en passant move, because that would lead to no progress in my life and chess. After the king moves, and a couple of moves later, you can see that my rook comes to the e1 square, gaining control of the e-file. I also create a pawn chain in this structure, preventing the knights from making any progress. As the game progresses, and each knight comes to f4, the position becomes more complicated. It's like an anaconda tightening around its prey, making the position more challenging. We have rook to e5, and because the position is closed, we must play healthy moves. What is a healthy move? A healthy move is one that doesn't make any direct attack but slightly improves your position. My rooks are doubled up, and after a few moves, I sacrifice my bishop, as you can see on the board. As the bishop moves back to b8, I sacrifice my bishop on h5. The reason behind this move is that after I play g6, and as the king moves, knight takes h5 will arrive. Consequently, rook to g1 check will appear on the board, checking the king. Where should the king go? If the king moves back, rook g7 will arrive, and my bishop will protect that square. Additionally, the bishop will come to g5, attacking the queen. After all, the black king will face many consequences and become fragile. That's why, after the king captures on h5, the rook moves back, attacking the black king. When the capture happens, queen f3 will come, with the idea of checkmating in a few moves. The game will be over for you, and I will win. Salute me, because I am your boss. So, going back to the original position, we discovered that capturing the bishop is not viable. After the rook moves and the bishop moves back, the king moves back to g8, and you can see that, the rook is attacking the pawn, and in the worst case scenario, I cannot move back my knight because black can easily capture the pawn on d5, causing me to lose the pride of having a great pawn on d5. The pawn is under attack by many pieces because it is very famous. After a few attacking moves, you can see that we are just maneuvering. The rook goes to the h3 square, and capturing the pawn on c4 would be a good move for me, but I didn't play that move. Black makes a mistake by playing knight to d7, which gives me the idea to capture the pawn on c4. After the knight moves to attack the pawn, I protect it by playing queen d4. Consequently, my queen lands on the a7 square, attacking the pawn and pressuring the bishop and the pawn simultaneously. After the knight moves back, I play a very cunning move, knight to e6. This move is crucial because if you capture the knight with your bishop, it doesn't matter. After the exchanges, bishop to d5 will pin the queen. Whether you capture the bishop or not, I will recapture with the rook. Pressuring the pawns and the bishop, I will control the open file, and my bishop can move to d4, making the position very complicated and bad for you. These circumstances will prove that your position is over. Going back to the position, we discovered that the knight cannot be captured. After the knight moves to c5, I capture the knight. You cannot recapture my bishop, because it is a VIP piece. You cannot take any action without its permission. After knight takes c5, I will capture the rook. Consequently, after the big exchanges occur on c5, I will have 3 minor pieces against your 2 weaker minor pieces, and I will win the game. Going back to the position, as the bishop cannot be captured, we have rook takes rook, and later we have bishop d4 attacking the rook. At the same time, your other rook is under attack. What will you save, your best friend or your greatest love? Think a little bit. He played bishop b8 first, saying that the best friend is more important than love, but at the same time, love is more important than a best friend because love is necessary in life. Best friends come and go, but let me protect my love by playing rook e5, chased by torch. I play knight e2 followed by knight f4, and as the queen moves back, I play knight d3. you can see that my knight is creating a very crucial and dominant position in the center square. So, let me share an amazing quote with you. Be grateful for what life brings you today, and hopeful for what it will bring tomorrow. I captured your rook, and later the exchanges occurred on the e6 square, and I picked up the bishop. We have queen d4 and 2 passed pawns, which is very winning for me. After a few more moves, as the bishop moves, we have the rook moving back. I am speeding up the game because there are many more moves that I cannot analyze. Later, we have queen exchanges on the h7 square. You can see that we have 2 minor pieces on the board, and at the end of the day, I have a strong pawn structure, like a big pawn army ready to defeat you. Consequently, I promoted a pawn to a new queen and checkmated you in the following moves. This was a very crucial and cunning game that I played with the Torch chess engine. I hope you enjoyed the game very much. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care, see you soon.